On today's Hot Sheet, I'm discussing the expected frontrunner for Trump's Fed chair. It's been picked this morning, the December PPI report and the declining median mortgage payment. Today is Friday, January 30th, 2026. I'm Byron Lazine, and the Hot Sheet starts now. First road hot sheet of the year, live from Austin, Texas. It's a pleasure to be with you wherever you may be tuning in from. Love to see you in the live chat. I've got the live chat up here, so we'll take any. It's a free format Friday, so any questions that you have, drop them into the live chat. I'll get to any of those that I can here today. But we've got big news for the first road hot sheet of the year. The president this morning has selected the new appointee for the Fed chairman position. Okay, there's been a lot of speculation over previous months of who that would be and when that selection would be made. We thought Q4, we thought December, we thought holiday time, we thought beginning of the year. Some thought yesterday before Jerome Powell went up for his Wednesday rather, before Jerome Powell went up for his presser, that the announcement would come moments before to kind of steal the thunder from Jerome Powell. Obviously, President Trump and Jerome Powell have obvious friction going on, but that wasn't the case. And we found out here today who that would undoubtedly be. Now, this appointee has got to move through Congress. It's got to be approved by Congress. Okay, so it's not a slam dunk. Just because Powell's position, his post ends in May, doesn't mean that this new selection automatically starts on the next day. It's not how it works. If Congress doesn't approve somebody, guess who stays in? It's Jerome Powell who stays in. But the selection has been made. President Donald Trump nominates Kevin Warsh as the chairman of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve. So Kevin Warsh now will be expected to take the Jerome Powell seat on the FOMC. Obviously, Jerome Powell has leverage in that committee. He influences that committee. So Trump made the announcement on his Truth Social. How many people are downloading this Truth Social? I don't know, but he posts on Truth Social and the media lets us know what's going on there. I don't have a Truth Social account, unfortunately, but he's pleased to announce that he's nominating Kevin Warsh. Remember, nominating, he's got to be approved. He's got to work through Congress to be the chairman of the Board of Governors for the Federal Reserve System. Kevin currently serves as the Shepherd Family Distinguished Visiting Fellow in the economics at the Hoover Institution. It sounds very academia, very fancy. He's a lecturer at Stanford Graduate Business School. He was AB Stanford, JD Harvard Law. So he's Stanford Harvard. He's one of those guys, very much an educated guy. I don't know why Bobby's taking my screen off here. Somebody took my screen off. It popped off there. Bobby's bug-eyeing at me like it wasn't him. Bobby doesn't want any issues here. Hotel rooming in Austin. But this is the tweet. Goes through his entire history, what he's been doing. What's interesting? Okay, what's interesting from his history? I'll break this down. He was the youngest Fed governor ever. Okay, he became a Fed governor at the age of 35. And so what's most interesting about that is he served on the Board of Governors, the member of governors, from 2006 until 2011. Okay, these were critical years, financially speaking. Okay, if you were in business during those years, if you lived through those years in real estate like I did, then you remember how much of a global meltdown we went through, the great financial crisis. Now, he was on the board during that time. Now, it's easy to be critiqued during that time. He has a lot of critiques. Historically, Kevin Warsh, very hawkish, which is interesting because the expectation was that we'd get a dovish pick. Waller, Hassett, those were the two names floated around up until this week when Polymarket took off with Warsh. Why? Because people viewed Hassett and Waller more as, two chairmen who would do the president's bidding. Isn't there this strong belief out there that the president wants a Fed chairperson that's going to do his bidding, that's going to kind of be like a little puppet for him, for what he wants, for how much of the rate cutting that him and even Secretary Bessent have said that they both want. Well, this selection, Kevin Warsh, has been very hawkish on lowering rates too much. And not just, not recently, we're talking historically, a long history. He's 55 years old today. So he's, 20 years ago was the first time he was on this committee. A lot of experience, whether you're going to have critiques on both sides. Some critiques say, he hasn't learned anything from his experience. How can you not after 20 years? But there's a track record now of Kevin Warsh being very hawkish on rates. So how's that going to sit? Why was this selection made? You've got to imagine, and I saw a tweet this morning from Logan Mohtashami over at Housing Wire, who said, you got to imagine, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have the tweet in front of me, but you got to imagine Kevin Warsh gave up some of his positions of past to get this post. Remember, there's a lot of lobbying conversations when Jerome Powell says, nothing I do is political bull. Okay, a lot of what he does is political. Remember, he didn't call inflation out. He called it transitory up until 8 days after he was reappointed his position. And that also begs the question, like, hey, Kevin Warsh, there's the Logan tweet there. Kevin Warsh is somebody who is only 55 years old. I heard somebody on CNBC this morning who said he's 55. He's not going to want to ruin his legacy by making big mistakes here. Okay, so he wants to have a long-term career. These guys care about their legacy. And so that's in reference to what? In reference to somebody who's going to come out and only do the president's bidding, who's going to scare the heck out of investors, going to lower rates too soon and maybe cause inflation to take off. Now, we're going to find out here where he's at on rates and what he thinks about this current Fed regime in just a minute. We'll go to Sarah Eason here real quick on her tweet. Squawk Box says the president, who clearly wants lower rates, this is a rallying cry right now leading into midterms, has chosen the most consistent, historically hawkish candidate. So this is the most hawkish candidate of the group that was considered. This person, Kevin Warsh, was hawkish even during the GFC. I mean, you got to be bold to be, during the greatest economic meltdown of our time, to be hawkish on rates during that time. Okay, so he's been consistently someone who warns of inflation. Now, here's something I do really like: smaller Fed balance sheet. So this is somebody historically who believes the Fed should not have as big of a balance sheet as they have. They should not have as much power as they have. I got aligned with that. Anything smaller Fed, smaller government is good for me. Let's go to Kevin Warsh 6 months ago. Okay, so now 6 months ago, he probably knew he might be considered, but he wasn't a favorite 6 months ago. He's on CNBC. He wants to be taken seriously. These are his thoughts 6 months ago of the performance of the Fed, and this gives some insights of how he's thinking about rates in this present time. We've got his history, hawkish on rates. How's he thinking about them in this environment? And what does he think about the Fed performance of, let's call the last couple of years? Let's go to this clip. This is from 6 to Kevin Warsh ago.
With the question that we just asked, which was around this idea that, and you talked about an accord between the Treasury and the Fed, which raised it in my mind, this speculation just last week that potentially Secretary Bessent could also become the head of the Fed at the same time, and what that would portend.
So I don't know if I'm supposed to say this on air, but I love Scott. I think Scott's doing a great job. He and I have a similar pedigree. We both worked for the finest investor in the world in Stan Druckenmiller. So if you're going to try to goad me into say something bad about Scott, I simply can't.
That's not the intent at all.
I think he's doing a great job, and I think he's serving the president well.
The question is whether you think that the same individual, not whether it's Scott or somebody else, could do both of those jobs, and what that would mean to this whole independence concept, and how people will feel about this accord even idea in that context.
Well, it would make the accord easier if the same person was on both sides of it. But listen, I guess I'd describe it to you this way. When I was a kid and I went to the Fed 20 years ago as a governor, I went downtown to see Paul Volcker, who was the great man. I think I brought my autograph book. I was so excited to meet him. I was a child to become governor. I asked him these narrow questions about the Fed. And he said, Kevin, listen, I'll support you. I'll tell the Democrats that you're going to be fine. But the job of being chairman of the Fed is two things. It's one, you got to get interest rates about right. And two, he said, you got to make sure you look like you know what you're doing. My view is the group that's there, they're well-intended, I am sure. There's huge amounts of talent. They haven't had interest rates about right for a long time. And they don't really look, as they change goalposts, like they have control and a deep understanding of what's going on. Credibility is the coin of the realm. If the same person is in both of those jobs, you're going to have a bit of a...
So let's go to full screen here, Bobby, if we can. There we go. So he said two things there that are important to note. Okay, he said, and I'm aligned with him on this, that the current FOMC, the committee that makes the decisions on the federal fund rate, has not had rates about right. The job is to get rates about right. What he's saying there is they've waited too long to lower rates. We had 3 consecutive cuts. Now, obviously, this week, no change. But this really was, not a little bit too late. You got to get there, but it could have been sooner. The data supported sooner. This should have been earlier. I'm on the same page as this new appointee, Kevin Warsh, on that. I'm also, the second thing he said, on the same page. This regime, led by Jerome Powell, does not appear often to look like they know what the heck they are doing. Okay, Dion said, you look good, you feel good, you play good. You're organized, you're ready, you have a consistent messaging. I've beaten up the Fed a lot on the word uncertainty. We're so uncertain, we don't know. Remember, they told you the world was going to come to an end a year ago because of tariffs, and they were dead wrong on that. So they've been wrong a lot. Just go back to 2022 when Jerome Powell was convincing Congress to spend an additional $2.3 trillion, and that inflation was transitory. Dead wrong on that. 8 days after he was reappointed, his position, did he change tune? Oh, wait, no. Inflation's a problem. We got to do something about it. We got to go to the extreme, the other direction. So I agree, has not consistently shown the ability to know what he's doing. Waited too long on rates. So the indicator here is that Kevin Warsh is somebody who's going to come in and likely cut, if he were to get in May, that he's going to likely come in and cut rates initially. But then, remember what I said before, his legacy matters. He doesn't want to cut too much because the markets are going to react. Excuse me. He's only 55 years old. So he's going to care about the future of his career. Doesn't want to make these big mistakes. The market reactions right now, okay? If we look at market reactions, stock futures fell a day after the S&P 500 posted second consecutive losing session. But trimmed declines after the nomination of Kevin Warsh to succeed Jerome Powell. So futures tied to the broad market index were down 0.5%, NASDAQ down, Dow futures down, but they were off of the lows post nomination, meaning, the markets kind of like this. Warsh's selection, according to CNBC, was likely to ease concern about Fed independence because of experience as Fed governor, strong stance at times against inflation. Hawkish against that. What he's likely to push for lower rates in the short term that Trump wants. The financial markets view him as someone who wouldn't always follow the president's direction and maintain credibility for monetary policy. See, some of the fears were that if he went Hassett, if he went Waller, obviously Secretary Bessent said, I'm not doing this a long time ago. He likes his job, Secretary Treasury. But if it was somebody that was seen that Trump could over-influence, that there wasn't going to be this independence, that the markets wouldn't like that the bond markets would reject that. And so now you've seen a selection here, and maybe this is a lot of Secretary Bessent being in Trump's ear, like, hey, you got to make a smarter pick than what is perceived as somebody you can control. You got to make sure somebody here has got the experience, this guy does, but also somebody who's going to kind of show that the Fed is independent. They're not always going to listen to you. So that could be, maybe it's a smart move. Maybe it's a risk. Maybe in a year he's not gonna like this guy, like he doesn't like Jerome Powell. But showing some versatility here of not going with what the expectation was, that it's going to be somebody he can keep his thumb on, going the opposite direction, somebody who's been hawkish in the past, but who's somebody who does align short term with, hey, there haven't been enough cuts. Now it's got to get through Congress. You're already seeing even Republican Congress members say, we are not approving Kevin Warsh or anybody until the DOJ investigation on Jerome Powell ends. Okay, so I've been critical of Jerome Powell playing too much politics. Well, the administration's doing the same thing with this DOJ investigation. It's the same kind of political warfare. Not sure really why you would do that. He's not going to cut. Polymarket says, you got no chance of having a cut here on the March meeting or the April meeting while Jerome Powell's in charge. And if you want Kevin Warsh to be in charge in June, which Polymarket only has a 34% chance of a 25 basis point cut. I think if Kevin Warsh is going to be leading that, those chances go up higher. Well, they have, I guess, gone up a little bit higher because you got a 50 basis point cut, 14%. So that's a big swing now with the Kevin Warsh appointment here. But he's got to get in June. And you've got Congress members saying, unless that DOJ investigation is dropped, because they think that is from the hands of the president directly, that is political warfare, I would tend to lean in that direction, that they're not going to approve anybody, okay? And so that's the next hurdle to jump. Markets seem to respect this move, and looks like it'll be, a good, stable move here in the short term, and that you could now see a rate cut as early as June if he gets in there. Remember, he could be chair of a committee that has Jerome Powell in the room. Jerome Powell still has influence. And remember those CNBC comments from 6 months ago where he said, I don't think this Fed appears to know what they're doing. So there could be instant friction within the FOMC as they track things like inflation and the labor market. Speaking of inflation, we have a new release today, Bureau of Labor Statistics. I'd love to know in your thoughts, though, in the live chat, what you think of Kevin Warsh, what you think of the new direction of the Fed. Was it shocking to you? This shouldn't be shocking. Inflation continues on the long trajectory to move down. The PPI, the Producer Price Index for final demand, increased 0.5% in December. Seasonally adjusted, according to BLS, reported today. Okay, final demand was 0.2% in November and 0.1% in October. Why do I say moving down in the long term when you have a 0.5% increase in December? Well, it's because we now have the data. December has clocked in, so we've got all of 2025. So the index for final demand, PPI, went up 3.0% in 2025 after moving up 3.5% in 2024. That is a long run move down on PPI inflation, one of the inflation measurements. 3% in 2025 is less than 3.5% in 2024. It doesn't happen instantly. Remember, Jerome Powell printed all this money. So you can't just turn around and get inflation down to this made-up New Zealand target of 2%. We've got Sam, I think it's Sam, says Trump's playing the long game with Warsh, and we'll see if he gets in. I agree. There is a long game being played here. Financial stability. You get somebody who's just going to go in there and kind of, paint the picture that the Fed is not independent. That's going to have long-term impacts. So I agree with that. There is some long-term thinking here. Trump critics will not give him credit for being a long-term thinker, or what appears to be long-term thinking, of course, but that does seem to be the case. So inflation on PPI, another good report, another positive report. This is in line with expectations. Nothing crazy here. Nothing to see. It's a slow burn down to that made up number of 2% that we've got to hit. It is heading in the right direction. You can't fast cook this thing. Everybody wants instant gratification. Everybody wants instant affordability. Doesn't happen when you print all that money. I'm sorry. The same people who were so scared out of their minds out of COVID, even when it was over, and they wanted the government to keep printing money and doing giveaways. Now they want affordability. You don't get your cake and eat it too. Okay. Now there are signs that affordability is improving. Mortgage Banker Association reports that mortgage application payments decreased in December. Okay, this is a slight decrease. Don't, I know it's early in the morning. Don't go make yourself a mimosa or anything. But as of January 29th, out of DC, Mortgage Banker Association says that homebuyer affordability improved slightly. National median payment applied for purchase applications decreasing from $2,025 or to $2,025 from $2,034. $9. Okay, $9, Bobby. What do you buy for $9? Okay.
Cup of coffee.
Bobby's cup of coffee guy. Got to make the coffee at home. I'm gonna make the coffee at home guy. Although I got free coffee from the Renaissance Lounge here today. So, all right. So a $9 savings from November, December. But this is that slow burn we're talking about. Housing affordability conditions continue to improve. Whether you want to get sensationalized on TikTok before you go to bed and somebody tells you it's all over, your kids will never own a home. No, housing affordability improved for the 7th consecutive month to close out 2025 because of lower mortgage rates, because of steady household earnings growth. Household earning growth has moved up. Rates have moved down. GDP looks like it's going to have a rip of a year. Economic expansion, more reason to project wages go up. If rates can continue to come down, Kevin Warsh gets in, doesn't scare the heck out of the markets, but does some short-term moves. You might see that. And what you'll see, you got to get to probably another year or two on this trajectory. You'll see affordability continue to shake out. Massive affordability instantly doesn't exist without some crazy rate drop. And that's where you obviously a crazy rate drop are going to have realistic fears of inflation taking off. So there's a balance there. We still have to play catch up on rates, in my opinion, a little bit. But there's certainly a balance there. MBA expects that moderating home price appreciation combined with even lower rates will continue to gradually ease affordability constraints and support increased housing market activity. Okay, so there's an update on where we're heading. Purchase application payments here over the last couple of years. If you look at purchase application payment index, even by state, all in 25 lower than 24. Certainly a significant increase from December. 2021. But you do see that affordability improving. All the charts, obviously, that we use here will be uploaded into school for you. Here's monthly earnings in a line chart. Okay. 75th percentile earnings versus median earnings, and 25th percentile earnings. So earnings in all categories, 25th percentile, 75th percentile, different demographics listed here, median, all moving up on earnings. So you gotta continue to see that trajectory, obviously, to help ease the pain of affordability. We're at new price levels. 2019, we're not going back. And it is what it is there. 10-year Treasury, as of this moment here, 8:55 local time in Austin, Texas. That's 9:55 on the East Coast. You got a 4.243 10-year Treasury over the last 5 days. That's somewhat near the, I'd call that the upper mid-range of the last 5 days, off of 24-hour highs. But up a tick here. So if we just go the last 24 hours, okay, that is, moving down, and we have this new announcement, the Kevin Warsh announcement. So last 24 hours, 10-year has moved down. That also includes this new Kevin Warsh announcement, but really not a major move at all on the 10-year here today with the Kevin Warsh announcement. Markets do not seem spooky. In fact, markets seem to long-term, like Sam said in the comments, long-term seem to like this move. Over the past month, we're near the higher end on the 10-year, and over the last 90 days, again, near the high end of the 10-year. Yesterday's 30-year fixed rate. Not sure what's going on here, Bobby. Bobby unplugged it, or I unplugged it? I don't think I unplugged it because it's clearly plugged in. Bobby's holding us. We'll get to it here in a second. But we got the 30-year fixed rate, according to Mortgage News Daily, at 6.16. We're not going to be able to see it, but take my word for it. It was 6.16, same thing as the day before. 6.16 on the 30-year fixed mortgage. The weekly came in at 6.10 off of a 6.09 the week before. Freddie Mac 30-year fixed weekly 6.10. So still trending in those low sixes there. Bobby, any comments here on this free format Friday? Anything you see in the comment section? I saw Sam's comment. Anything else?
Comment, Kanto was saying that she asked if you think that you can get the other governors to agree with him.
Well, if Jerome Powell is one of those governors, no, I do not think he can get all. He'll have a vote. There's 12 votes. He'll have a vote. There'll be 11 other votes. I don't think he'll have influence on 11. And the clip I played 6 months ago, I dug that one up for a reason. You've got potentially a new Fed chairperson coming in who's going to lead the committee, and he has. Now, I agree with what he said, but now you got the dynamics inside the locker room, so to speak, of somebody who's come in and said, this committee does not appear to know what they are doing at all times, is certainly not going to create the warmest welcome. I don't think anybody's going to bring him homemade muffins on the first meeting. Okay. Probably going to be a little bit that they need to work through as a unit. They don't always have to all agree. We've seen dissents now, multiple meetings in a row, 10-2 this week. But if Jerome Powell's sitting on that committee, his closest allies are going to be, you might have almost a divide in the committee where you got some of the allies, the old allies of Jerome Powell. Jerome Powell can stay on for 2 years. Okay, so you may have some of those that look to him. Kevin Warsh, he's the future, obviously. 4-year appointments. So he'd be the future. You'd probably want to align with him if you want to be on the committee long term, but you could have somewhat of a divide. So no, I don't think he's going to get everybody to agree with him. That's what it looks like on paper right now. It doesn't even look like Kevin Warsh gets in until this DOJ investigation is dropped. So Congress is certainly saying we know this investigation is political, by the way. All right, Bobby, anything else? We got Knowledge Brokers we got to record. Doing my first keynote this afternoon here in Austin. If you're coming to this event, Realty Hack at the Renaissance in Austin, it'd be amazing to say hello to you. And if you're not, don't worry. BAM Pro Bowl is next week. BAMProBowl.com. Get your free spot right now. It's Wednesday. I'm doing a fireside with Jared James and James Dwiggins. You do not want to miss that. If you've been to Pro Bowl 1 or 2, you know the entertainment. You know the content that is going to be delivered. It's going to be one of a kind. BAM Pro Bowl 3, go to BAMProBowl.com. Get signed up. First mega virtual event of the year for BAM, all kicking off Wednesday of next week. BAMProBowl.com. I'll see you there. New Knowledge Brokers getting posted over on Knowledge Brokers channel later today. Bobby, you going to be able to get all that done?
Haley's doing Knowledge.
Haley's going to do it. So I'll see you guys then. Until next time, toodaloo.